Hi everyone, happy first day of fall to you. Well, it's that time of year when everything's starting to kind of wind down and a lot of the plants are kind of at the end of their life cycle, but I just thought I'd make a little video on how my plant sanctuary has fared out this year. And so here it is. Most of these plants are spent. They have already gone to seed and have dropped a lot of their seeds. Even this Brussels sprout, I was meaning to actually save some of the seeds, but I guess the seeds were kind of saved for me already because, well, some of the seed pods have kind of split open and the seeds have all dropped to the ground, so there's a good chance I can get a whole bunch of new Brussels sprouts pop up in this place, which would be very cool. But that's how it's basically been with a lot of these plants. Like, save some of the valerian seeds, but most of them have dropped, and I think just letting the seeds drop to the ground is kind of nature's way of saving seeds. Like, it's a lot less work. You just get them self-sown, coming back in the same place every year. One thing I really like about this garden is it just looks so wild and natural looking. Like, a lot of these plants, if you may remember, were just saved from around the yard and transplanted into here, like this thistle. Oh, pokey. And there was also this yarrow plant over here. So impressed with, because before it was just a tiny little clump of leaves, and now it grew into a flower, and now the flower's done. It's dropping its seeds, so I have our yarrow. Same thing with this St. John's wort over here. It's actually got a chance to kind of have a nice life this year because it's protected in this plant sanctuary. And so this white clover, sweet white clover, is still making flowers, but the bees are pretty much done their job for the season. I didn't get any hop cones this year like I thought I was going to. Not yet, I guess. Maybe next year or the year after. I have no idea how long it takes, really. They say a few years, but these are a few years old. But I did pick some of the leaves from these and dried them out, and I can use them to make tea and stuff. And I bet I could even still brew, like with the leaves themselves. I don't think there'd be any harm in that. It would just maybe taste a little different if I brew beer with just the hops leaves. So I'll have to probably pick the rest of them. Just see how it goes. I did already harvest most of the herbs from here, so like the sage and all that wormwood. And so I dehydrated them and using them for teas and whatnot. I like making tea out of my herbs. Like, a lot of people like to make their herbs into tinctures or that sort of thing, which I do like doing, but I think tea is actually my favorite way to consume medicinal herbs in general. So as you can see, this comfrey had quite the season. And so comfrey is typically used as a chop and drop, which means once it's done, so any time now, if I wanted to, I can cut down this plant, shred it all up, and use it as mulch. But I think what I'll do is I'll just leave it in place to fall down naturally at the end of the year when the snow comes, and just basically decompose in place. It's just a lot less work. Like, really, folks, gardening doesn't have to be a lot of work if you just let nature do its thing. It really will balance itself out, and like all these plants are competing with each other or helping each other. The whole thing about symbiosis and even survival of the fittest and all that. But this garden, I predict anyways, is going to look way different next year. And it'll be so exciting to see what comes up next spring. Like, a lot of these plants that I already picked, like catnip for example, or even lemon balm. There's some lemon balm down here. But a lot of these are perennials. And so this was a lot of, like I had a lot of new perennial plants added here this season. And they grew a little and then they were done. But next year, they're going to come back stronger than they were before because they're older, more established plants. So I should get a lot more herbs out of here next year, just simply because the plants would be more mature. And so that's exciting. And the catnip cage was a success. I didn't have any cats break in and try to steal my catnip, even though some of the plants were growing up through the wiring on top. But cats didn't climb on here and try to play with the catnip, which is good. So I'll definitely leave this here, and more catnip will grow back, and probably be even more since I actually let that catnip go to seed for the most part. So should be seeds dropped, combination of seeds dropped, and this already established roots coming back. I will be harvesting this valerian just a little later, probably sometime next month or just before the snow flies anyways, because that's when all the energy of the plant is going back into the roots, and then your roots will be more potent medicinally, which it really doesn't matter. You could harvest it anytime. It's just ideal if you wait longer with roots or whatever. I think it's more a matter of preference in my opinion. But once the soil gets all wet again from all the fall rains and whatever, it should be easier to dig up. I'm really interested about this Brussels sprout plant because this Brussels sprout was planted in the vegetable garden last year, and it didn't produce Brussels sprouts, but it survived the winter under the snow, and then this spring I transplanted it here, which it flowered and went to seed. But it looks like there's a big root wad, kind of root ball over here. And it looks like it's actually making new plants. So I'm wondering if this biennial could turn into kind of a perennial and just make more Brussels sprouts from this huge bulky trunk down here, because that just looks like that's what it's doing. And so if this survives, that would be very, very neat to see. And I don't know if I ever showed you this, but when I made my victory garden down there was a bunch of wild violets down there, which I transplanted them here. And it's just like a big mound of violets. So, and they're pretty aggressive spreaders, so this would probably take over a lot more. And that'd be very cool to have violets and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if you can see this, but this is like a hill in the garden. Maybe kind of like a type of hugelkultur, because I had put this. Oh, look, a ladybug. Hi. Ladybug. You are? Actually, this is the first ladybug I've seen in this garden this year. It's funny. I had released ladybugs in here that I found out in the wild. I didn't see them again, but maybe this one stuck around, or maybe this is a one that was already here. That's cool. Hi. Well, that's good. That's good to see them in a garden because they eat aphids and that sort of thing. Hey, you. You're very cute. It's always a good sign when you see ladybugs in your garden. So yeah, I did take down my leafcutter bee nesting block earlier this month. Put it away in cool storage for winter, and then next spring I'll put this back up and have leafcutter bees again next summer, hopefully. It's really hard to tell what's what a lot of times unless you actually take a closer look. Like, here's my strawberries. So these would be my wild strawberries that I transplanted. They're still alive, and I did get some wild strawberries. But also those strawberries I started from seed, like last winter, they made a strawberry this year. I got one strawberry out of it, so that was very cool. This is a volunteer wild lettuce that I've let go to seed. And they make little fluffs, kind of like dandelions, because they're in the lettuce family. And it's a nice medicinal herb, but I hope this spreads a little more so that I get more of these and then could actually have enough to harvest, because I only got a couple of these plants show up in my garden, so maybe I'll get more later. That would be cool. So I'm definitely not going to clear all these plants out for planting next spring or anything like that. I'm going to leave them all to decompose in place, and then new plants will grow from that and feed off the nutrients from those old spent plants that would be from last year that were this year. And also a lot of that straw mulch that I threw in here would be completely decomposed by then. So that's how you build soil, you guys. You just let your plants decompose in place and you'll have more soil build up, and then you'll end up with a better, healthier garden because of the soil. And that's really how it works in nature, is like nature doesn't dig and amend soil or anything. It just covers with plants and then builds soil up just naturally. That's kind of the goal with this garden, is to be as natural as possible compared to how it was before, trying to get rid of every weed and make everything look perfect. But there's something even more perfect, more perfectly imperfect about the way how nature kind of does things. Like, a lot of people would think this looks very messy, but I think it just looks like wild and natural. So that's my plant sanctuary in a nutshell. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Until next time, happy growing, everyone.